I'm Igor and this is the List Building Lifestyle, a podcast for those who want to build a large profitable email list and make six figures from anywhere in the world. If you would like to get rich by building a large email list while helping people, this podcast is for you. I also invite you to attend a free web class I'm conducting this week to find out how I built a list of 4,331,656 email subscribers at a profit. Secure your free seat at igor.cx. Attend this free workshop to discover an easy way to get 50 to 500 new email leads per day on complete autopilot without losing tons of money. Just go to igor.cx to attend this free web class. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to another edition of the List Building Lifestyle with your host, Igor Kayfetz. When I was growing up, I wasn't really a popular kid in school. I was kind of fat. I was really insecure, and I always experienced a lot of grief over the fact that, people didn't listen to me. I was never what you'd now call a leader. And it seemed like other kids who weren't as smart as I was, who weren't as diligent as I was, who weren't as good people as I was, because I consider myself to be a really good person and a great friend. For some reason, they were the ones who were getting all the attention, all the praise of their peers, and it seemed like when they wanted to do something, everybody wanted to do it with them. And when I suggested to do something, nobody wanted to do it with me. Nobody would listen. My opinion would just not matter. And that reminds me a lot of how I felt in the first 3.5 years of doing online marketing, because no matter what I said, no matter the videos I published, no matter the emails I wrote, no matter the articles I published, no matter the things I said on the forums, no matter what I posted on my Facebook wall, people just didn't care. My opinion just didn't matter. And of course, it showed in my income. But then over time, I slowly but surely started picking up on some skills and some principles that allowed me to become a better communicator, a better leader. And as a result, people started listening to my opinion. And now I'm very fortunate to not only have a large customer base and large readership base that does listen to my opinion, which again, I'm very, very grateful for. But I also have a large team of people in my personal life that are now a part of my network, a part of my inner circle. Basically people who chose me as their leader or who chose me as their life companion as a result of the ideas and the opinions that I share with them and the way that I share those ideas and opinions with them. And of course, I want to think that it also has something to do with my actions. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that leadership matters. Leadership matters a lot. And even though it's an intangible concept that we can't really put in a box, leadership is very real, and we need leaders. In fact, it's one of the most common things that I see, that people automatically cling to things and other people that they see as the worthy leaders that they need. So I don't need to tell you that. You probably have learned that to be true. In fact, if you're listening to this podcast, in a way, you're acknowledging me as your leader. So one thing that I wanted to share with you today is how leadership as a skill is really important when you want to become a successful online marketer, because most of the time, you will be selling yourself to people. You will be selling your own ideas. You will be selling basically very intangible things, and that will be the only thing that sets you apart from other people in the industry selling same or similar things. So that is why I'm sharing with you this episode, the 5 Igor rules of leadership. And the first one being is there's no bad teams, just bad leaders. And a great example of that, I don't know if you're a soccer fan or not, but I'm a huge Manchester United fan. So even if you're not a soccer fan, you've probably heard of Manchester United. They're one of the greatest teams in European football. And again, we're talking about football as in kicking the ball with your foot, and not the kind of football where you carry the ball around in your hands, right? So Manchester United is one of the greatest teams in history of football. I sincerely believe that. I know Dennis will argue with me. I know there's probably a bunch of you out there, who are fans of different teams, etc. But that's my belief here, and I'm going to stick to it. And that's the beauty of having a podcast. It's a one-side dialogue. So when we look at Manchester United history, for the longest time, they had only one coach. For the last 30 years or so, they've had Sir Alex Ferguson at the helm of the team. He was the general manager, and he won probably more titles than I could probably list in a single episode. He broke the record for the most premiership wins, for the most premiership titles in history. He surpassed Liverpool, had 18 or 17 of them, and he had 19. He's a two-time winner of the UEFA Champions League. I mean, the dude has achieved so much, and most of the time his teams weren't the most talented teams in the world, although they had quite a roster, if you think about it. But here's what we noticed: this principle at play: no bad teams, just bad leaders. In 2013 season, Alex Ferguson announces he's retiring, and he walks away with a league title. And then he passes the team into the hands of a different manager. All of a sudden, for the next 2 or 3 years, I mean, Manchester United just sucks. I mean, they're just really, really bad. They have an incredible roster. They have some of the best scorers in the world. They've got definitely the best goalie in the world. And the infrastructure, the money, everything, the history, the pedigree, the mindset. All of a sudden, the team starts losing to everyone and finishes somewhere in the middle of the table. Now, this is unusual for a team that's always in the top 2 or the top 3 teams in the league. So then they switch the manager. They bring in a Dutch manager who has a rich history of wins. He used to manage Barcelona in some of their great days. He brought up some of the most famous players in the world, and he's doing his best. He brings the team back into the top 5, and I think he wins the cup. But still, the team kind of sucks. I mean, you can tell it's not the same team. So then they bring another manager. And this time, this guy, he has won a bunch of trophies with other teams, and he has his own little style going on. And he brings a team to the top 2, but still, the team fails, and the next season completely drops the ball. So they fire him in the middle of the season, and now they bring in a substitute manager, an ex-Man United player, and this guy, he just does wonders. All of a sudden, the team goes on an 11-game winning streak. I think the first time they lost was after 13 games or so. They advance in Champions League over one of the most potent competitors in the league that year. All of a sudden, the team is transformed. The mindset's back. The energy's back. I mean, he has a team where it's like he's using half the players from the youth team because a lot of players are injured, and still he gets to win. So, I mean, that's a huge proof, as far as I'm concerned, to this principle of no bad teams, just bad leaders. I mean, honestly, you put the wrong person at the helm of an enterprise or a group, you see that enterprise or group go down. And we've seen that many times before, both in sports, both in business, and pretty much in every area of our life. So whenever your enterprise or team or business isn't performing, this is the time for you as the leader of that business to reflect on yourself. Right, and ask yourself, why am I being a bad leader? So that's rule number 1. The second principle of leadership is you don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. Now, what that means is a lot of times what happens is we bring people on board, right? We start either it's a friendship, or maybe they're coming in as a team member, or maybe just a business partner that you've decided to partner up with. Maybe it's somebody you play professional sports with. It doesn't matter. But when you lead that team and you clearly outline your goals for that team or give instructions, you'll notice that most of the time people don't follow those instructions exactly as you outline them. So it took me many years to learn this principle, especially training my own sales staff. But you always get not what you want, but what you tolerate. That has been the principle. So I noticed the more tolerant I became of bad behavior, as I call it, and for each and every one of us, bad behavior can be something else. But the more tolerant I was of bad behavior, the more of it I got. But it was only when I started cutting it off completely, even to the tune of letting go of a team member immediately, immediately as soon as they, for example, make the same mistake twice or something like that. Or maybe they do something that's on my big no-no list, or maybe they lied to me once and I caught them, right? The moment I did not tolerate it from one person, the rest got the message and never violated the behavioral code. And this is something we can observe in Sun Tzu's Art of War, where he gives an example of a new emperor or a new warlord who steps in and orders his people to do something, and then one of them refuses, so he just comes up to one of them and just chops off his head. And all of a sudden, the rest are like super obedient. Yo, it's Igor. If you're loving the content, hop on over to listbuildinglifestyleshow.com for more free training and a free transcript of this episode. Oh, and I'd really appreciate if you logged into iTunes and rated the show. It really helps. Thanks. You only get what you tolerate, not what you want. And this is a principle to remember, because no matter how big your business is right now, if you rely on other people in your business, you will see that principle at play. Now, the third principle of leadership is start with why. Now, starting with a why, the reason it's so important is because people think that a good leader, what a good leader does is just, he or she commands an action and the rest follow, right? Blindly, like ants or something, as if they're like under a spell. But that's not true. The only way you can motivate people to do what you want is by showing exactly how doing that, right, achieves some sort of an outcome everybody wants. And specifically, you can expect people to do a better job only if they understand exactly why that particular action is important to you or your team or your enterprise. Because if you just tell people to do things just for the sake of doing them, it's just not as effective. I mean, it's just not, I guess it's not one of those principles that I can clearly explain in a scientific way, but I just know that every time that I make a request for an action, right, of my team, and I clearly explain why that is very important, first off, I get less flashback. And second, I get better outcomes. I get better effort. And you'll notice that with your team as well. Explaining the reason why behind your request, behind your command, behind your wish has always served me really well. And I think that's a great principle to follow if you'd like to become a great leader. Now, another thing that I see great leaders do, and something that I've started doing more often over the years, is to show appreciation, monetary appreciation when possible. What that means is that people love being appreciated. Most people work really hard and they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel like whoever they're working with or whoever they're working for actually knows what they're doing and appreciates what they're doing. So when you can, especially unexpectedly, show appreciation and make that appreciation count, right? So it could be just as simple as a thank you note, or it could be as big as maybe paying for a trip somewhere or something like that, right? Or it could be just a small monetary bonus to their paycheck. It could be many different things, but showing that appreciation will typically encourage that person on your team to perform better. And you may think, okay, Igor, but that's kind of being manipulative. And you know what? You may be right. It may be manipulation, but it's also the right thing to do. I think there's a few instances in life where manipulation is a good thing, but I think this is one of those things. Showing appreciation to your loved ones, to your friends, to your team members, to the people you work with, to subcontractors that you work with, to professionals that you rely on. For example, like if I have an agency running my YouTube ads for me, right? So showing unexpected appreciation for those people, like it will only do better. It will only do good for you rather than bad. It will only create a stronger relationship. It can't hurt. Like, it's just impossible. Even if the person who gets that appreciation understands on some level that this is kind of like manipulating the whole thing, still, everybody loves being appreciated. And if you can do it sincerely, do it. If you can't do it sincerely, if you want to, like, if it feels like manipulation to you, then do it that way. But not doing it is the worst thing, right? And doing it in any form is way better than not doing it. So that's the fourth principle of leadership. And the final principle of leadership took me a long time to get. I think this is the one where I dropped the ball the most. And I think this principle is where I really messed up a bunch of relationships in my life, and I think this principle cost me some friendships too. the principle is critique the mistake, praise the mistake maker. So what does that mean? Basically, if one of your team members makes the mistake, you definitely want to critique the mistake in a form of, okay, so here's the mistake, here's why it happened, here's why it's really, really bad, and here's how to here's how to make sure it doesn't happen again, right? That's how you critique a mistake. But critiquing a mistake is very, very factual, right? It's very, there's no negativity, emotion, or toxicity in it, right? There's no toxic sort of a poison in the fact of critiquing the mistake. Criticizing the mistake maker is where the toxic stuff is. It's where the relationships get ruined. It's where people's self-esteem gets ruined, right? So what you want to do, you want to critique the mistake. You definitely want to explain why it's bad and how to make sure it doesn't happen again, and what were the damages incurred. But you want to praise the mistake maker. If you don't follow this principle and you critique the mistake maker, and the mistake maker takes everything you say personally, what you may end up creating, worst case scenario, is somebody who's so demotivated to work with you that they end up making more mistakes and more mistakes and more mistakes until you kind of have to let them go. The best case scenario that comes out of it, you breed a very fearful and insecure team member that is operating out of a place of fear rather than out of a place of helping your enterprise evolve and grow. Somebody who's afraid to make mistakes and therefore takes really poor action as a result of that, rather than taking great action, suggesting better ideas, suggesting improving things around them. So I think I've made that mistake very, very often early on in my life. I do think it's because of my upbringing, because that's the only way I knew how to communicate at the time. And I think that's one of the reasons why I lost the relationship with one of my best friends, Max, who used to work for me a while, and it just that friendship couldn't survive that. I think that's why I lost the relationship with one of my family members who I don't talk to anymore, who also used to work for me. And I think that it's also why one of my employees ended up becoming very fearful of me, and as a result ends up just making mistakes out of sheer fear and operates out of that place of fear. So, I'm not going to mention their name, but they probably know I'm talking about them. And, I think that's, I really regret that. I gotta say that I really regret that. After all these years looking back, I do regret not understanding this principle early on, because what I've done is I drove away lots of great people. Now, to the same extent, I have to acknowledge the people who stuck around, right? People who knew me before I kind of matured a little bit and got a little bit perspective, because I was really bad. I was criticizing people all the time. I mean, I criticize myself too, don't get me wrong. But I criticize people a lot, and some stuck, right? Some people stuck, and I guess they saw something in me that I didn't see myself, and they were able to see through all of that criticism. But man, I really wish I understood that I need to critique the mistake and praise the mistake maker, and not really beat up the people who made some mistakes just because they were learning. So these are the 5 principles of leadership that I recommend you follow if you want to build a better team. If you want to, both in terms of marketing, right? If you're building a team, if you're like building a tribe or building a list or building any sort of community, like if you're on your own mastermind, for example, as well as building a team for your business, right? Or building a team for your sports, like if you're coaching little leagues or something like that. So 5 principles are: no bad teams, just bad leaders. You don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. You always want to start with why. You want to show appreciation, and you want to critique the mistake and praise the mistake maker. So these are 5 rules of Igor productivity, or Igor's 5 rules of productivity. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. And until next time we chat, have a good one. Thank you for tuning in to the List Building Lifestyle. Get access to previous episodes, the transcript of today's show, and exclusive content at our website at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. Also, don't forget to claim your free seat at the traffic workshop I'm conducting this week, where I'm showing how I built a list of 4,331,656 email subscribers without losing money, and how my clients are putting anywhere from 50 to 500 new leads per day on their list at a profit without any list building experience. Just go to igor.cx to claim your free seat now.